up, horror fam? Welcome back to the channel. So for today's update, we have something coming out from Mike Flanagan as it relates to his, well, at least two of his projects, the Carrie TV series and the Exorcist movie that he will be doing, which last time I checked, it was being deemed as a reboot, not a remake. And this is based on the fact that if you didn't see the Exorcist Believer that came out in late 2023, it didn't go over well. Many people didn't like it. It was pretty much a box office failure. So the studio had originally said that was going to be the kickoff for a new Exorcist trilogy. But again, based on the fact that it, again, was an absolute failure, they canceled that entire trilogy outright. They did not continue with the next two films. They went with Flanagan, and now they've decided to do a untitled, it's currently untitled right now, Exorcist film. But again, it is supposed to be a reboot, and we are getting that in March 2026, I believe. And I'm not sure exactly when we would expect to get the Carrie TV series. I would imagine it's probably going to be somewhere around that same time. I don't expect it to be in 2025. Again, there hasn't been any news about the date on that one. But I know for the movie, The Exorcist, we do have a 2026 date. But it seems like Mike Flanagan's calendar just keeps getting booked up more and more. If you didn't already know, we have covered this a couple of times. He has recently was reported in December of 2024, mid-late December, and it was confirmed by one of the co-CEOs of DC Studios, James Gunn, that Mike Flanagan has been, his script for a horror slash thriller slash mystery version of the DC character Clayface live action was greenlit, so he is in charge of that script. And that one is scheduled to come out in September 2026. So it seems like 2026 could be a big year for Mike Flanagan's work. Again, I would imagine the Carrie TV series will probably come out. If it doesn't come out in 2026, then I can only imagine it would be mid-late 2025. But again, no word on that date, which I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't gotten a date, just for the sheer fact of the heavy interest in getting that out. But this article here, as you can see from the headline, Mike Flanagan shares a cryptic tease about his unique takes on Carrie and The Exorcist. So we're going to get into some of these details. We're going to break some things down, give a little history on both of these franchises, because The Exorcist is actually one of my favorite franchises overall. Now, I know, again, as I mentioned, a lot of people didn't like The Exorcist, the Believer, or Exorcist Believer, sorry, the true name of it. And there were also 4-5 films before that one that preceded that one. But one of those films is, in some circles, is considered the same movie, just cut different. You had, two different directors. One director pretty much finished his film. The studio didn't like it. They brought somebody else in to redo the film, and he, of course, had his take on it. So again, the story itself is similar. So I know in some circles it's considered in a way the same movie, but it's not really the same movie. Completely different thing, completely different releases. One was released in 2004, one was released in 2005. So they weren't even released very close, even close together, but not very close together. So let's get into some of these details, and I'll do some callbacks to the franchises. So acclaimed director Mike Flanagan has teased that his upcoming adaptations of Carrie and The Exorcist are very timely. Flanagan has written and directed many critically acclaimed movies and TV shows such as Hush, Dr. Sleep, The Haunting of Hill House, and Midnight Mass. After cementing himself as one of the most successful directors currently working in the horror genre, Flanagan is now working on a Carrie TV and a new Exorcist movie. Flanagan recently replied to a fan on Blue Sky and revealed that his upcoming Carrie and Exorcist projects are, quote, surprisingly timely. While not many details are currently known about either project, the filmmaker also promised that they will both be unique takes on the iconic stories they are based on. View Flanagan's full reply below. So you can see here a screenshot. Someone says, "Are any projects in the works relating to what we have coming?" And then he replied, "Our unique takes on both The Exorcist and Carrie are feeling surprisingly timely." So we jump down here as far as what the author thinks about these comments. Flanagan's Carrie is an upcoming TV show based on Stephen King's 1974 novel of the same name. The story of the novel, so we don't need to necessarily go through that. We know Flanagan has worked on several projects that were based off of Stephen King's novels. That's no surprise either. And again, as he mentioned up above, Flanagan has promised his version of Carrie will be unique from others. It is currently unclear if Flanagan's Exorcist film will tell a similar story or be radically different, but there is already confidence in the project from Blumhouse. After The Exorcist Believer was critically a failure, which we talked about earlier, it was a failure. It did not do well. And it's unfortunate because, again, as a fan of that series, I had some high hopes for that one. I'm curious to know what they consider to be a failure for this film. Just, let's just take a sidestep here, because the budget for that film was very small. It was only roughly $25 to $30 million. And unless they were expecting a complete, blowout at the box office for this film, it made almost $140 million. So you made almost $100 million, I don't know if that's full profit because you consider marketing and maybe some other things, but you made more than, what, triple your investment, as far as your budget goes. And this was supposed to be a kickoff to a trilogy, so it's very possible that the second and third films could have garnered much more fan favor, could have really built on something. I mean, at some level, you have to lay down a foundation for a franchise if you're going into it already doing a trilogy. So maybe they didn't give it enough of a chance before completely abandoning this trilogy idea and going right to a reboot. So a little bit unfortunate. I would be interested again to understand what is considered a failure, because if they're basing it solely on what critics are saying, that is, in my opinion, the dumbest thing you can do. Don't base your opinions, and even as a viewer, don't base, if you're going to watch a movie or TV series, of what a critic or a group of critics are going to say. Watch it for yourself, form your own opinion, because 10 out of 10 critics may say they hate this film or TV series. You may go watch it and you may enjoy it, you may love it, it may be one of your favorites. So make your opinions on your own. Don't listen to other people. Watch the stuff for yourself. Watch the content for yourself. So Blumhouse scrapped their plans for a trilogy and brought on Flanagan to write a new Exorcist movie. The first Exorcist film was released in 1973 and remains one of the best horror movies of all time. I would agree with that. The first Exorcist movie follows a young girl who gets possessed by the demon. It is currently unclear if Flanagan's version will tell a similar story or be radically different, but there's already confidence in the project from Blumhouse, as a release date set for March 13th, 2026. And again, this touches on not many details, as we already mentioned up above, about the Carrie TV show or the Exorcist film. But it does say here, furthermore, it is likely that the themes and ideas explored in these projects will relate to real-world events that are relevant right now. Throughout his career, Flanagan has proven that he is one of the most skilled directors in the horror genre, so we'll be excited to see his Carrie show and Exorcist movie. And that's where it's off. So I'm okay with them not going back. And I mean, let's touch on the Exorcist for a moment. So if the Exorcist film that he is doing is meant to be a reboot, I'm okay with it not going back to 1973 is when the first Exorcist film came out. So I'm okay with it not really being based on, that time period, or, in the 70s. It has a child named Regan, going through all that again and just having it have a modern look. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is if you take a completely different take on, so let me retract that. I'm okay with a director coming in, putting his own stamp on things, creating his own worlds, creating his own stories, what have you. However, when you're talking about a franchise like this, such as The Exorcist, that is a core franchise to the horror genre, I do like to know there's some level of respect to say you are going to respect the source material, and that's not the film. The source material being the 1971 novel. Now, if he's going to be using that, whether he fully takes from it, whether he takes certain things from it, that's where I'm okay with. Because again, that's where you have Regan and all those characters that we saw in the original film. As long as, there is some level of, respect there from source material, I'm okay with. If you're going to base it solely on, the events of today, that's where I think it can get a little dicey, as far as we know the political landscape, we know all those things that can come into play, and you don't necessarily want to turn it into a political movie or a social experiment movie where you lose track of the point of this being an Exorcist film. Just something I tend to try to keep in mind when we hear the terms reboot, remake, and then they say that they're going to be basing it off of current world events to make it relevant for now. I think even without that, even if you made this film based in like the 80s, you can still make it very relevant. I mean, again, it's about The Exorcist. It's based off a novel. So we'll see. And to touch on the rest of the franchise, if you don't know, you had The Exorcist, the novel, then you had Legion in 1983. Now, many people assume the book Legion was used to make Exorcist 2 The Heretic. It was not. Legion was actually the source material for The Exorcist Part 3, which many people feel is the far superior sequel from the original. Many people did not like Exorcist 2 The Heretic, where we did see Linda Blair come back into the role with Regan. She did not return after that until we saw her for a brief 2 minutes in The Exorcist Believer at the very end, because the actress who played her mother in the original films played that same part in that film. It was actually a predominant role, a supporting role in that movie. So again, not many people feel that Exorcist 2 Heretic from 1977 was a valid sequel, so they always refer to The Exorcist 3 from 1990 as the, again, better of the original. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there were two films that some people treat as the same but different. So you had Exorcist the beginning, then you had Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist. As I mentioned, the first one came out in 2004, the other one came out in 2005. If you don't know the history between these two films, Google it. We've actually covered it on a previously daily episode where the first film, it was pretty much done. The studio didn't like it. There was all this back and forth with the director. Ended up firing the director, brought somebody else in who pretty much redid the entire movie. But there are some things there that are the same. But again, it has a different feel, has a different name. Neither one of them was a success. It was a very unfortunate situation. It was a black eye on the franchise. Then, of course, it took us, another 15 years or so before we got another film. And again, we talked about The Exorcist Believer, and I don't understand what's considered as a failure for that one. So now we have a reboot coming in 2026. So fingers crossed that one will turn out to be good. Now, as far as the Carrie TV series, as it mentions, we have no information about the Carrie TV series. But as it relates to the franchise itself, sometimes I think TV series can work for a franchise such as this. Now, with Carrie, there hasn't been a lot going on. You have the original Carrie, then you had a sequel, The Rage Carrie 2. Then in 2001, 2002, somewhere around there, they did a television film, which many people have, either don't realize or completely forgot about was ever even done. 2013, we had the Carrie remake. That one didn't land well with people. It seems like some of the remakes on these classic, iconic horror films are never well received. And then after that, the franchise pretty much went dormant. There was a stage production done, but again, nothing as far as feature film or TV series. So this is going to be the first TV series that's going to be done for this franchise. So I think it's going to be kind of important that this one lands well, and maybe it is good that you have someone like Mike Flanagan in there, at least, involved, directing, writing, what have you, to make sure it gets off to a good start. All right, everyone, that is going to do it for this update on Carrie the TV series and the reboot of the upcoming The Exorcist coming in 2026. I just want to say a quick thank you to all of our new subscribers to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you for all the support. We are doing our best to put out daily content of what is going on in the horror genre. And if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment in the comment section of this video. Let us know what you think about the Carrie TV series and the reboot to The Exorcist. If you're excited for either one of these projects, if you're excited for both, again, let us know down in the comment section and we will look to respond to you. Otherwise, have a good one. Peace.